Okay, I apologize for the unedited video. I'm hoping that you can just accept the microphone that I have. It's not brilliant. I'm going to show you UT3 PhysX in its entirety. I'm going to boot it up. I'm going to run the game. I'm going to show you what it's like and what files you require and how to install them. And I'm going to try and do it in less than 10 minutes, but I'm not really the best at doing this. I would prefer it if somebody else did it. So the only thing you really need to know is that I've modified the engine in it so that the hardware physics is enabled. I turned on the physics indicator in NVIDIA profile. If you do not have an NVIDIA graphics card, it does not matter, you'll still be able to use physics. However, I can't provide any support or information on that unless somebody actually does the exact same thing that I have, confirms that everything's working perfect, and then obviously doesn't have an NVIDIA graphics card. I'm doing all this on the world's oldest graphics card. It's been done on a GTX 970 where I used to get 40 frames per second. I'm now getting basically infinite frames a second. I've heard online that people cap their frame rate to 250. It's just something that appears to be new that I've never seen before. Not quite sure why, possibly because newer hardware is extremely powerful. Now this presents a problem, not the setting of the frame rate, that's quite good, I might look into it. But what actually happens is people have newer hardware, it performs really well, they run PhysX, they get about 60 something odd frames per second, they mess around with the engine in it, and eventually they just kind of accept, oh, it's an old game and that's how it should be running. And then when I run a new game, I get much better frames per second. This is not the case. PhysX is per app, per game dependent. You need the correct sort of compiled DLL files for it to be able to run. And the ones that came with the original UT3 are simply not up to scratch with the NVIDIA PhysX that was released later on. So I'm executing a cheap.txt file, which doesn't seem to be doing anything for some reason. Okay, there we go. Right, so we've got all of our weapons. And all I've done there is just enabled gore and turned off some of the post-processing effects and the fog. This is what the rocket launcher is like. It's exactly the same for anyone that's installed NVIDIA PhysX. It just is accurate physics simulations on bits of debris that come off when you shoot stuff. Now we've got a second PhysX weapon that's available to us here, which is the gravity wave cannon. That's the pickup. There's some ammo. This is the gravity wave cannon, and that's what it does. So at the moment, instead of getting 40 frames per second, we are rocking over 200. It's nice. Obviously, we don't have any bots, and we've got crazy explosions and all sorts of madness going on here. As you can see, it takes all of the debris with it. You can explode stuff. Well, it's up there. Okay, cool. So it's all looking pretty good. We've got our two weapons. Is there any more? Well, we've got a stinger. And you'll notice that lots of shards fly off the stinger. The physics is a lot more accurate. You can see once you get the angle, the momentum, velocity, everything is 100% more accurate. And it also reacts to different materials as well. So that's that. Now unfortunately we don't have every single weapon in the game that NVIDIA implemented, but what we do have is the package files that came with it and a script file which I've just written to enable the missing weapons. So we'll go through the list and we'll load up the black cannon. Now I did this in the past. I just kept the black bullet on it because this PhysX stuff does detract a lot from the core gameplay unless you're using it for environmental factors and making just more realistic physics. So this is the original black hole cannon launcher as it's supposed to be. As you can see, it sucks everything in and just blows stuff up. So we've got all of our physics running properly, which means that everything in the environment also reacts properly, and if we get it just right, that should fall off before it explodes. No, we can't get a damage factor right on it. But it does fall off before it explodes. Cool. So that's our gravity wave cannon. Very, very cool stuff. You see what happens when you put it on bots. But before we do that, we're going to spawn in some of the other stuff that's available. We've got the PhysX Leviathan, which is always fun to spawn in because it lands on top of you and crushes you. So there's a PhysX Leviathan. We've also got the PhysX Dark Walker. So that's Dark Walker. I believe it was the. It looks kind of like lava, like melting and stuff. And it's heating up around. Okay, and finally, there should be a third vehicle which I should be able to access, and there we go. There's PhysX working 100% properly on the bodies as well. So you actually, you know, for people who play online, everything reacts better. You know, the particle effects, the explosions, the reactions to when you shoot stuff, it all works as it should do. Right, let's go and check out some of these videos. So, is there a teleport the cursor in UT3? No, can't remember. Right, that's something that needs to be added. Teleport to cursor. Okay, the Cicada, unfortunately, does not have the PhysX rockets implemented on it. That's not done yet, so as you can see, the debris does not fall off it. But what it does have, if we get, say, well, actually, let's get a rocket launcher in there. You can see the PhysX reactions to that. Boom. Okay, so ignore the little bits coming off of the rocket launcher. There we go. Boom. There's a bit of PhysX lump coming off the Dark Walker there. As you can see, there's another bit. Oh, they react much better. Really cool stuff. Do the same with the Cicada. That'll explode. That'll do the same. That'll explode and leave bits off it. So that's pretty much the full roster of what was available within the game. I think the link gun might have maybe a little bit of difference to it. I can't quite remember. There's the sparks that fall off it, level sparks and stuff like that. This is really cool stuff. So that's pretty much the entirety of the publish folder. Now, when we have the correct PhysX set up, what we've got is a registry entry file, which normally looks like this, which is the latest PhysX. Like even if you install legacy PhysX or the latest PhysX drivers for your graphics card, or if you don't have NVIDIA PhysX drivers, then you're going to need this registry file. But this is wrong. 2.83 is no good to us because what we need is 2.72. Now I put them all in there, which is a bit better. So that only be like double click it, run that, or just manually add it to your registry entry. Then we've got the actual PhysX files themselves, which is the NVIDIA files and the UT3 PhysX. Now we know that the UT3 PhysX goes in the binary and folders and updates the ones from 2007 or whatever the original date was. So we've got those in there. And the NX cooking file, and there's a PhysX local file as well, which is just the same. So whether you need them in two places is kind of irrespective. It's better to have a full collection of those files. So we've added the UT3 binaries. We go to the 32-bit x86 NVIDIA folder. This is what NVIDIA installs when you do like legacy drivers, and for me, the most recent, whatever, GTX 1070, 970, or 1080 Ti, or whatever, whichever one is in use at the time. I've just backed that up there, moved it over, and you add your PhysX common and your engine files here. So there we go. This is, this is labeled 2020. Is the last time I kind of looked at this. I've got like I think it's a 500 now version or something, but these files are still used in 2013, so you don't want the new ones. These are the ones that you want. It all works perfectly. Now, how do we prove that PhysX is working perfectly? As I said, people can just run it and they think maybe frames are different, higher or lower or whatever, or it runs, or they just think it's all working good. But if you actually look at what's happening in that video that I made, you'll see the interaction with the PhysX simulations in the environment running much better. Now, there is one single test that you can do to ensure that you have everything installed correctly. So I've given you the DLL, given you the information about it, showed the map. You do also need the shortcuts, which would normally come with if you were to install the Geo or NVIDIA files. Obviously, you're using the up-to-date files that I have provided, so we're going to cover those and then come back to the shortcut. So in the unpublished folder, we've got a PhysX folder wherever you want to put it. We've got the Agea tutorial maps that I fixed, and the soft body room, which is the most important map in the Agea tutorial. And then in the published folder, we've got the PhysX maps that you just saw running. So we'll go back and we've got use unpublished, and we're also using the default PhysX tutorial engine ini. This shortcut is important. So we're loading from the use unpublished folders. We log in just to ensure that we've got our sort of saved data and character and stuff like that. And as you can see, we've got the soft body room. Now this soft body room is the most important PhysX map that you can find, because as you can see, there's pressure valves, vessels in this case, with a Agea cloth solver. Now this is a circle ball. Imagine it as a balloon or a ball full of air, but it's made of cloth. It is a cloth solver physics. What's important about this is if you have the incorrect ELL, like if you have the wrong setup, this ball will simply not fit down the tube. So what happens is it becomes too rigid and it won't fit. And then if it's glitching out and flying off and stuff like this is actually a really, really strange bug, which has nothing to do with NVIDIA PhysX. So we'll demonstrate that now, where we log out. And then there's the bug where it sets your audio back to normal, then log back in. We've got hardware PhysX enabled, so we know that everything's good. Go to instant action, DM, back up to the soft body room, start the game again. Now this has nothing to do with the NVIDIA PhysX file. Why it does it, as you can see, it drops down, falls through, fits nicely, starts rolling down the steps. I have no idea why that profile bug exists. It could be something to do with maybe. Do you know what? I honestly don't know. I've never solved it. But that's working perfect. There you go. So we all know PhysX is installed correctly, 100% working perfect. This here, you can drive over with a vehicle, but you can do that with any of the PhysX binary versions, and you can compile them yourself and test it and download the NVIDIA ones and test it. All of the other PhysX will always work in all of the other maps, except for that cloth physics, which is extremely important when you play capture the flag and stuff like that. How do we do this? Well, one of the things that you can also do, and this is where some confusion comes in, so if you load up Shangri-La, it's got these doors in it, and because we're in the unpublished folder, we can load up Shangri-La and we can enable the Agea mutators. And with the Agea mutators, we're now obviously running from the unpublished folder using the Agea mutators, but we're actually using the published map for Shangri-La. And what this has is destructible doors, destructible chunks of wood, and destructible gargoyles. And that's all running just from the mutator with no PhysX impact whatsoever. There's nothing wrong with it. All works cool. There's another place where we can load some stuff up, which is right here. And it only takes one line of code to do this. You simply replace, you look up the name of the static mesh and replace it with the destructible one that you want. So you can make everything in UT3 destructible without impacting the performance. Not that you would do because of the destruction of the core mechanics, but NVIDIA do provide these as destructibles. So although it's not present within the mutator, one line of code will make all of these assets destructibles, which could, make things interesting. And obviously people can just add lines of code each time to do it. But this has all been there since 2008. It all works really well. They do have destructible trees that have dismemberment and branches that come off it. It's another feature that hasn't been implemented, and I don't think I might have implemented it once in 2015 under the PhysX project, but I'm not entirely sure whether I released that stuff. So there it is. That should be everything you need to know about PhysX, where the file goes, where to install it, all the maps and everything else in just under 15 minutes.